Episode 21 of the Transformation Podcast. Tyler, it's back again. Tyler, how you doing today?
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me again. This
Of
is what, number
course.
three?
This is number 3 for us.
That's
And
awesome.
you recently took a special trip. I mean that in more than one way. Uh to exploring yourself and looking for more answers. Just dive right into it right away. So tell us a little bit about it.
Ooh, yeah, okay. It's been a while, so I want to give a little bit of preface, if that's okay. Kind of
Of
what's gone on
course.
in the gap
Yeah.
between our last
Yeah.
meeting. And
Start from the beginning. Yeah.
what I'll get to is I'll talk about my peyote experience. But between then, I really reflected a lot on process and what processing my feelings, processing who I am, processing my emotions, and trying to identify where those emotions are in my head, in my body, if I have pain, how to get it out, how to be okay and accept the pain, and really being on a healing journey. And my goal is, man, I don't want to have to depend on ayahuasca or mushrooms or any other drug to learn to fully process and really cast out pain or energy or heal or allow things to come up that are really, really deep inside of me. And so that's been my journey is how can I figure out how to process, how to meditate, how to go deep inside of myself without needing medicine all of the time, you know? And when a couple weeks ago I was on a hike, you actually listened to this journal entry, but I
Yes, I did.
I I went through a process that was very similar to an ayahuasca experience, and it was super powerful. And when I got something out of me, I accepted something in that I realized wasn't mine. And peyote, it's an important preface because peyote addressed that. I find that there are still missing pieces of myself. Like I'm a big puzzle piece, Tyler Hinkson, my true self. And it's getting more and more filled, but there's still missing pieces of me that either I'm ashamed of, I'm afraid of, or they haven't come yet. I don't feel like I'm my highest self, but I've experienced my highest self. That's why I know there are gaps. And when I went through this process, I accepted this energy that was housed inside of me that made me really, really powerful, but it also made me move, right? Once I came down off of that mountain, I started moving and doing these infinity symbols, moving with my head, almost like I was channeling this energy and I couldn't stop. When music would come on, I would dance to it. And it was thrilling because it was new, it was exciting, and I accepted it as me. And when I, right about last week, I went to Washington and helped my brother Daniel, who owns a pest control company out there, and he has a sales group. And I went out there and I facilitated some breath work, and I did a meeting about the power of thought, how to think. And when I facilitated these meetings, I brought this energy with me. And it was really powerful because I told myself, I'm not going to be anyone other than myself. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to reply unless energy moves me. And I started practicing a few days before I went to Washington. First thing I'd do when I'd wake up is I would just literally lay in bed until something moved me. And it was a scary practice because there's this thought of, well, I'm just going to lay here forever, you know? And then as I breathe and I really focus on my breath, eventually I stretch and then I just continue to lay there. And then magically, eventually I get out of bed. And I went through this practice of can I listen to myself until something comes inside of me and moves me all day long? And it was interesting because the words that were coming out of my mouth were more pure, were more powerful. I would be more selective in my music. I'd be more selective in my activities. I was much more comfortable in ignoring my text messages or my emails until my body told me to check them. All of this hyperactivity that I've been feeling just diminished and was stripped away. But I had this movement with me, right? This movement that stilled my mind, but exhausted my body. So I say all of that because when I went to peyote, I really embraced this because it did so much good for me. I learned a lot about energy, pure energy that was flowing through me. And a lot of my movements were this infinity motion. And I learned that energy, at least for me, would go on this infinity wheel, high energy over here, and then it would move to low energy. Sometimes it would go fast, sometimes it would go slow. And I would find that when I was in these high energy places, I was moving a lot and my mind was still, or my mind was very, very clear and very, very intense, and my body would calm. When I was in these low energy spaces, that is when I would start to want to fight it, right? Oh, the energy is low, but I want high energy because I have a meeting or because I need to hop on a call or because my kids want to play. And I've realized that so much of my life, when I'm here, I try to grab myself and I try to pressure myself over to the high energy and I skip the wheel, especially if it's really slow. If it's a long, slow energy cycle,
Sure.
that's when I'm really tempted to just yank it. And I realize that I can force myself over, but eventually it's like a rubber band. I let go and it snaps back in a horrible way where I feel burnout
Yeah.
or I feel anxious or I feel depressed. And inevitably, I snap back to it. And this energy really taught me the importance of allowing the energy flow to happen within me and to honor that energy and to honor where I'm at in that cycle to the point of full acceptance. If I'm low energy, be low energy. If I'm high energy, be high energy. There's a time I was laying in bed and I was really trying to go to sleep. And I haven't taken melatonin or put lavender on my pillow or anything since Costa Rica. I just naturally allow myself to fall asleep. But I was just twitching. I just had so much energy. And I realized I'm this high energy state and I want to be here. Right. So I just put on some music and I just danced for a couple hours until the energy came back here. And so this energy taught me a lot. But when I went and did this peyote ceremony, peyote is very different than ayahuasca. I think I anticipated it being very similar to
Okay.
ayahuasca because ayahuasca is the grandmother medicine. That's what people call it. And peyote is the grandfather medicine. So I just figured, well, they've got to be pretty similar,
Yeah.
you know, but they're almost exact opposites,
Okay.
which was crazy for me. It took me a few hours to learn how the medicine works and how I can be aligned with it. I was fighting it unintentionally, expecting something different than it was giving me. So the way
Give me your time
peyote
frame
of what
of
of the
when you first took it. Yeah.
so I got there at 10 a.m.
Uh-huh.
and it, there were 9 people there. We gather in a teepee and we sit on the ground around a fire in the middle
Yep.
and we go around and we have the medicine, which when I took it, it was a paste in a spoon and a tea. And the medicine was in both. More
Okay.
potent in the spoon, less potent in the tea. But you take the paste and then you drink the tea to help it go down faster. But before you do, every time you communicate with the medicine, essentially asking the medicine to help you with a certain intention. And my intention was to learn how to honor the energy further so that I could be more comfortable with myself and figure out what purpose I have in the world to best use my gifts. And everyone had a different intention behind it.
Yeah.
So we took the medicine, we just listened to music for about an hour and we just watched the fire. And it's really calming just because no one's talking. We're just watching a fire and listening to this soft Indian type music. And you just listen to any thoughts that come up. And I wasn't having any thoughts come up at all. I was
Okay.
just I was just sitting there, you know?
Right.
And I could see everyone else going into this Zen-like state, and I wasn't. I was just like waiting with this slight irritation of anticipation of what are my thoughts going to be. And after someone shared something that was going on in their life, it triggered something in me that came up. And they shared something about uh, feeling like they're trying to discard a version of themselves that they know isn't true to accept a new version. And then I rose my hand and I said, I feel like I discarded that version when I was in Costa Rica, when I did ayahuasca. And I feel like this new version of me with this new energy, this moving through me is very funny looking. And I need to learn how to accept that. And I would like to learn how to accept that. And I'd like to figure out what that means for me. And over the next probably 3 hours, through guidance of fire, the medicine, and the two shamans, I don't know if they technically call them shamans. That's just what I call them.
Yeah.
I slowly learned to understand that peyote, the intention of peyote is is to slowly guide you toward control and sovereignty of self and deep groundedness. That's the purpose of peyote, and I never knew that. I didn't understand that. It wasn't until I rose my hand and I asked, like, I'm struggling communicating with this medicine. I don't know how to work with it. Where they told me peyote is about claiming sovereignty over your body. Imagine that you own a home and squatters come into your house and they start bringing more and more stuff and they start bringing more and more friends. Eventually, they take over your body, right? Are you going to be comfortable enough to kick them out,
Right.
set up barriers around your house, and protect your house at all cost?
It's pretty similar to kind of what happened with us in Costa Rica as we kicked those energies out of our body, whatever those were, the shells of ourselves. We shedded that skin, so to speak. But as they're saying is what you're saying is when that goes, that means there's space. And it's important to import good energy, good vibrations into that space because if certain things come back, they come back with a vengeance. That's actually my brother when I came back, he spiritually had a very similar uh, death and rebirth experience, and he brought over a Bible and showed me a verse when I got back from Costa Rica that essentially narrated exactly what you're talking about is now that that bad juju is out of your body, what's coming in? Make sure that it's pure and make sure that it has the right intention behind it.
Yes. Peyote is less about getting it out and learning how to discern what's coming in.
Okay. So that's
Although
important then.
I did have something in me that needed to get out. Eventually, I was able to identify, hey, I'm struggling with this because I have a pain. I have an irritation. I want to lay down. I want to lay down or I want to get up and dance. I'm struggling sitting literally on the ground in front of a fire until 7 p.m. at night. So two, that's 9 hours sitting on the ground. That's hard for me. That's hard for just about anybody.
Yeah, it
And
is.
And so identified the pain in the middle of one of my spines on my back. And they helped me understand that it was an energy that it housed inside of me that I accepted as part of me that wasn't really me. And I had to get it out. And I went through probably a 2 hour journey similar to Costa Rica, where they were chanting over me, breathing smoke on me, having me move smoke to different parts of my head, stand up, shake around, all sorts of, but it wasn't me shaking. It was like the medicine kind of moving me, you
Yeah.
know, all of
Right.
these things. And eventually they gave me like this quartz like dagger, and they told me to just hold it and just let the
Hmm.
medicine guide it. It guided me it to my back, and I just started stabbing at my spine until I got to this spot where I could feel the pain, like an energetic pain. It was a physical pain, but I knew it wasn't due to anything physical,
Yeah.
you know? And I wasn't brave enough to push hard enough. Like I thought I was pushing so hard that if I pushed any more, I'd like stab into my spine, and like really hurt myself. So I took more medicine and called on my highest self to come help me in that moment and to invite the parts of me that were not there to come and be accepted. And after just a few minutes, it was really interesting. I felt a commitment to get this energy out that I hadn't fully committed to. And I took the dagger and I found that spot and I just literally as hard as I possibly could, I was just digging in to my back until I found it. And I felt like it had connected to this dagger. And I slowly moved it up. Let me wonder if you can actually, well,
Oh,
can you see this?
yeah. Yep.
So
Do
that
see it.
little dot right there
Yep.
was the spot where the dagger was.
Okay.
And I had to move it with a ton of pressure up along my back, up through my neck,
Yeah.
and then out my head. And immediately as it came out, I like started thrashing really bad and I came up like this.
Yep.
And then my hands went out to the fire and I just started like waving and I could feel from this spot
Yeah.
energy just coursing out of me, like out of my hands and out of my head. Boom, just right into the fire for
Yep.
minutes. And then eventually I just stilled. And I stilled in a way that wasn't exhausted. It was just the most calm that I've ever been, like more so than Costa Rica. Like ayahuasca, it was like a calm with a ton of emotion,
Yeah. Right.
right? And then eventually you want to move, you want to dance. That's the grandmother, where the grandfather was, once that was out of me, it was this still, like you think of an Indian, like
Hmm.
a chief, just like this stillness. And I just sat there with total calm, watching the fire. And that's when I started having really powerful insights that the energy that comes through me that I can use to help people process, that I can use to help people heal, that I can use to help me dance and connect with my emotions is not me. What I am is I'm like the ember of a fire, warm, still, steady, powerful, and the flames are around me, but they're not a part of me, right? They're gifts that I have, but it's my responsibility to invite them in, call on them when I need them, partner with them, cast out the ones that don't benefit me, right? But to protect my home, right? And what I had done is I'd let the energy start guiding me rather than me guiding the energy. And it created a house inside of me. And I was waiting till movement happened that wasn't my movement. It was energy movement. And since I've been able to find what I think is my kind of life force, right? So now I wait patiently for my life force, but it doesn't it's not movement per se. It's intention, it's devotion, it's intensity, right? It's a different feeling that I have. And then I can invite that energy to channel through me to help me perform. And it's been interesting to discern all of this. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's my life now, right? I'm like addicted to figuring out what the heck this is going
Yeah.
on in my life so that I can dig deeper and deeper and deeper to figure out who I am. Because I didn't realize how unsure I was of myself. I thought after Costa Rica and after doing ayahuasca, I found myself. And I realized I found a big part of myself by discarding an old version of me, but I didn't find all of me. I'm still on the journey. And peyote helped me feel calm with that and allowed the parts of me to come back that I was truly ashamed of or guilty of, which is having strong boundaries, not being so accommodating to other people that I am a servant to them rather than a servant leader to them. I mean, I still want to help people, but it has to be my choice. I need to respond out of my sovereignty rather than their need, which is a subtle difference, but powerful. I never understood that before until I used peyote.
So what I'm understanding from this is throughout your journey after Costa Rica, you were allowing energy to kind of dictate what your life was. And after the peyote ceremony, you're now understanding that you need to be in control of that energy and you need to understand what that energy is as well as be maybe more aware of what energy is coming in you and leaving you. Is that, do I have that correct?
Mhm.
Can
Which
so
sounds obvious, but I did not understand that.
well, and
And I didn't
I
know that I had invited in. I thought it was a part of me anyway, right? I just figured,
yeah.
well, I just guess I'm just going to be moving every time I talk. Because literally got to the point where every time I would talk with power,
Hmm.
I would like start moving, or
Sure.
bouncing up and down. And I was just like, well, I guess this is who I am now. I could not discern the difference. And if I stopped, it was painful. Like I'd start shaking. I'm like, I guess this is a new tick, but like there was true power that I would feel
Yeah.
from it. I was very connected to other people and I could identify with their pain stronger. And it was a new gift that I had that I figured was a part of me and I could not discern the difference. And peyote helped me discern that difference by actually figuring the pain in my body and become more in tune with what I'm inviting in and identifying whether that's truly a part of me or just something like a fire around me that I can use, but isn't me, if that makes sense.
It does. It does to me. I gonna ask what you left the church. You said it was 3 years ago, right?
5 years ago. Mhm.
5 years ago. It, if you don't want to answer this, it's all right. I'm just curious. Is that kind of when you began? Is that kind of when your journey began of trying to find yourself? Was that becoming estranged with maybe the religion that you had grown up with? It, or were you kind of feeling this prior and that's what led you to leave?
I don't know exactly when. I'm still waiting for that to
Okay.
come. If there's a critical moment. One thing I do know is when I was young, I did I was super confident in myself. I was proud of every part of me
Hmm.
to the point where I was bullied in school. But the I was the only one that didn't know that I was bullied. My
Okay.
teachers would talk to my parents. My parents were concerned, but when bullies would make fun of me, I would just laugh with them because what they were talking about was totally true. If they were laughing about me whistling all the time or moving or processing very quickly or being very, very strong and like who I wanted on my team, like super stubborn, it wasn't it wasn't bullying to me because they were just identifying something that was very true about myself.
Right.
And at some point in my life, that shifted where rather than laughing at who I was, I started to listen to what other people were saying who I should be. And I started to become my own bully and criticize myself. And I stopped laughing. Instead, I started hurting. And it got to the point where I constructed a version of myself that I perceived other people wanted me to be and that I believed that I wanted to be. And I got rid of the version of myself through criticism and through hiding. And I think that is what ayahuasca stripped away was that version of me. And it was far before I left the church.
Okay. Sure. Did when after leaving the church, did you lose faith, or was it more you walking away from something that didn't feel like it had, the right intentions around it? Did you just feel
Hmm.
like that was supposed to be part of your journey, or I'm just curious because I grew up in a Catholic family,
Hmm.
and throughout my 20s, I would say that I kind of walked away from that.
Hmm.
But and the reason why I did that, looking back on it now, was, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody that's Catholic, but everybody wears a robe and dresses up into this church and we all sing together. And if you don't go, you're this bad person. And there's all these rules you need to follow. And after coming back from Costa Rica, I now understand that it's not about playing dress up and presenting yourself as this person to the rest of the people that are in your tribe, so to speak. It's about your own personal relationship with God, whatever it might be. So I guess my question to you is, did after leaving before Costa Rica, after Costa Rica, did you still have that faith, or did you feel somewhat jaded from it, from walking away, where there was maybe some hard feelings attached to it, or your life is kind of being uprooted?
Good question. I don't think it was so much that I was hurt by it. I just truly didn't believe it anymore. I severed the spiritual connection completely and turned purely logical and scientific, which did a lot of good, right? And it truly taught me how to think in a very healthy, constructive way. People sometimes think we think in a binary way, right? If I ask what's the square root of 64, people say 8, right? And there's a very clear process that can be used to figure out how to come up with that answer. Oh, am I frozen?
You're good.
Am I
You're good.
here?
Yep, you're here.
Okay. Let me put do not disturb. I think it was a call coming in.
No problem.
There we go. But if you were stranded on an island and I asked you how would you go about creating a shelter, all of a sudden the answer is totally different. The process to come up with that answer is different. So leaving the church put me very in tune with that side of thinking, how to come up with the question, how to process through the answer. And it made it so I wasn't reliant on any guide or any book or any source of schooling to come up with answers for the arbitrary. And that was powerful. But I severed 100% the spiritual connection until ayahuasca. I think that is why I struggled with doing mushrooms or bufo in Bali, was because I was going in purely logical and I didn't have any spiritual semblance to guide me through any processing that was
Yeah.
beyond the logic. And ayahuasca forced that into me, and I could see it and I could feel it. And so coming back, I realized that through the last few months that being in the church was really, really good because I was very in tune with what I called the spirit. I was very in tune. I always have been. I always have been since I was a kid, right? I'd have these thoughts bubble up inside of me, almost like I felt like if it, like when you throw up, you get to the point where you can't hold it in anymore, regardless of how hard you try. It just comes out,
Yeah.
right? Words, thoughts, creative inspiration, right? Literal body movement. I remember one time when I was living in Siberia, I was we were carrying our groceries and I remember hearing a voice very, very clearly that yelled at me to stop. And I was walking and my foot literally stopped in midair. And I just paused there. I could not move. And about 3 seconds later, a train came rushing right in front of me. And if I would have kept walking, I would have got hit. And we were like super oblivious to it. There was like this wall or something. I can't remember exactly. And it was, I've had experiences like that all throughout my life. And I tied those directly to the church that I grew up in. And I didn't realize that those energies, those connections have always been a part of me. And I just severed them. I when I left the church spiritually, I was really strong in my sovereignty, right? And I created a barrier where no energy could enter to the point where I did not feel any emotion,
Yeah.
no emotion, no joy, no pain, no being in tune to anything. It was just me and my thoughts and my logic. But coming back from ayahuasca, I got connected with that, and I think I got so hungry for it that I allowed those energies to come and house inside of me. And now I feel like I found the balance.
What kind of practices did they want you to take with you after ceremony? Were there certain integration practices that they spoke of after ceremony to help you maintain that balance that you're speaking about?
One, they gave me a candle
Okay.
that I've been burning. It's supposed to be a subtle guidance for the parts of me that need to come back, that need to integrate with me, that I've cast out through various reasons, and a grounding source for me to be able to accept them where they're at and become more discerning of who I am. I have been much more still. I've just in the last 2 days, hours and hours and hours of just sitting on the ground meditating and just listening to my breath and feeling the energy kind of go up and down
Sure.
in sacred silence too. Like before I would meditate, I would do it with music. Now I just sit there and I'm calm. There's no anxiety that comes up saying, "Oh, you're wasting your time. You should do this. You should do that. Check your phone." Right. And that's how it would typically be after a while in meditation. Now it's just this calm.
It's a really
This,
hard thing to do is meditate in silence. And it
mhm.
feels like forever too. I I personally I try like heck to have silence and sit there and just exercise my brain. Your brain is also a muscle in a way. And if you're not exercising it, it becomes weak. And I feel like meditation is kind of like that push up time for your brain.
Mm,
And I know exactly about the anxiety that you're talking about. There's a desire to check the notifications on your phone, whatever they may be. And what's funny about it is that those things will always be there. Take the time for yourself.
mhm.
Easier said
And,
than done.
and I think the difference for me, if I had to try to articulate it, is it used to be work for me, where now it is a place of peace.
Mhm.
Now it's just as calming for me as going to bed at night and cuddling up under my covers, right? That is meditation for me now. And it just wasn't that way. I don't know exactly what changed it, except for I peyote helped me become so grounded with self that being with myself and only myself was the calmest thing. And the idea of anything else took effort. unless unless I was so grounded and myself moved toward that. Right? It's almost as if I'm like this view on the screen that you're looking at. Like if something's happening outside of the view, right?
Yeah.
I can't. What I've spent so much of my life doing is just trying to reach out there and yeah, yank it in.
Yeah.
Know? And we all spend so much of our life. We're here in the present. We can only see what we can see. And we spend so much of our time in the present, not being in the present, but reaching forward or reaching backwards and trying to yank ourselves backwards or yank something in the future toward us, right? And peyote grounded me in the present fully, completely, like totally, where I don't need the past or the future. I just know they'll come. And I can be in meditation. So the last meditation I did before this call, I sat there for a while just in total calm, knowing that eventually the meditation would be over, but it wasn't due to any time. It wasn't a clock or anything. It was my body eventually just started moving, started stretching, and I went through a yoga flow. It was about 40-minute yoga flow that was my body moving with it took no effort. zero effort. I wasn't sweating. I wasn't thinking. I was just following the meditation of my body. And it was honestly, I had done that a few times in my life, but usually when I do yoga, it's like a workout, you know, where
Yep.
this was meditation, right? And it was healing. And I was like, ah, that's what yoga is. That's what people, when they talk about yoga, they're talking about that.
Yeah, not P90X, right?
Mhm. Yeah, or not just like I can throw on yoga and do it, right? But it's like kind of a challenge. The flow, I'm counting the steps, I'm counting the time, I'm counting my breath, right? But when if you're imagine you're in such a deep meditation that like you're not thinking about your breath, you're not thinking about emotions, no thoughts are entering, you're not grabbing onto anything. When you can have that in yoga and your body truly just moves by itself, like man, it's so beautiful.
It definitely is. And I'm forever thankful for the yoga that I had experienced at Rhythmia because when you search around for yoga, whether it's your local gym or on YouTube, it's just not the same. But I think the other part of that is what we experienced and what you had just recently experienced and what you are talking about is being grounded and being in that energy wavelength that makes it so peaceful, gives you that
Hmm.
peace.
Yeah, it's almost like if I'm just sitting here and I trust myself, what I used to do is I used to try to reach into the future and pull myself forward, right? And it took effort, right? Or I try to pull something into me. But now I can just sit here. And this is a practice, right? I'm not perfect at it, but I've experienced this now where I can just sit here and I feel like something from the future just throws a lasso at my heart and says, "Whoop, okay, time to go." Right. And it moves me like literally,
Yeah.
and I experienced that in Costa Rica when I had that exorcism moment, and I was just thrashing around. I was like out, I could not control my body. And it's kind of like that now. And it's just crazy, but it's cool. And now that I'm experiencing that in life, it's like a game for me. My life is fun for me now
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going to happen, but I know
Yeah.
my body's going to move and I don't have to think about the future at all because something, when it's time, just gets thrown at me and pulls me there when it's time. It's like that's pretty cool.
That's the power of being present of what we talked about is your body is doing the movements, but you're grounded and you're in place and you're watching everything in front of you and you're appreciating every second.
Mhm. And now I can discern whether that lasso is, I get to choose. Am I
Yeah.
moving or not? Right. Where I did go through a while, about a week, where I would just anything that came, any energy that came and yanked at me, I was like, oh, I guess I'm going. Oh, I guess I'm going here. Oh, I guess I'm going here. Where I'm learning to discern when that comes, whether to let it take me or not.
Yeah.
And that's my practice.
What's next?
I
Do
don't know.
you just gonna just take this all in for now, allow yourself to process it, integrate,
Mhm.
and do you see yourself doing any more plant medicines going forward? I know it might be too early to tell. You're literally 2 days off of this experience, but
I think
just
so. I
yeah,
think so. I definitely see the tools in them. I'll probably go down to Rhythmia again this fall with my brother and maybe a friend. I when I was in Washington, I don't do like marijuana hardly ever. But
yeah,
when I was in Washington, we got two vape pens. One was sativa and one was indica. And for my brother, he's always just like, yeah, indica makes you sleepy, and uh, sativa makes it so that you can work faster or whatever, right? I'm like, I don't think that's the intention of the medicine, right? And so I took both with intention on 2 different days, and I realized that for me, indica puts me in touch with my feelings and allows me to get into process mode for my feelings or my movements, very in tune. And if I fight it, that's when I get sleepy. That's when I get chill, right? But there's a side effect either way where I get this fog on my head.
Hmm.
And it's frustrating because I know I'm not going to remember all of my thoughts, right? It and if the more in tune, the higher my intention with it, the less the fog is, but it's still there, right? Where sativa, it my brother was using it, that's his kind of drug of choice, right?
Sure.
Although he's really calmed down on it. But he's like, when I need to get a lot done, or it's kind of like my Adderall, right? But it also brings in a strong ego associated with it. There's a lot more fishing. There's a lot more trying to direct people to your way of thinking, to your answer, and you have to be consciously aware of that. But if you don't fight it and you go in with true intention and you slow down, sativa can help you think creatively and clearly in a safe, calm spot. And so I had my brother do breath work while he was on sativa, and the insights he had weren't things on his head that he wanted to get done faster or more creatively. It was a place of stillness, and he allowed thoughts to come in about himself on a logical level that was like, wow, I don't take time for myself ever. Right. Like that's the power of that type of medicine. And I realized when I did them that I don't need the medicine most of the time. Like, because if I am truly grounded and I allow the energy to come at the right time and I invite it in, it's almost like I am on sativa and indica merged together without any of the side effects. It's much more pure for me.
Yeah.
So it's not that I won't ever use marijuana again. It's just if I drift, I'll need it to anchor me back in.
Sure.
But I want to practice not needing it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Right. Right. I think that's important. What advice would you give to anybody that's curious about peyote, just from what you experienced? Speak to our arrhythmia brothers and sisters, and then maybe to the average person that hasn't tried any kind of plant medicine before.
I think all plant medicine, just in my experience, is to go in with intention to merge with the medicine, become a teammate and almost a follower of the medicine, rather than trying to lead the medicine with it with your intention or with your desires, because it's so easy to let your wants or your assumptions override the true nature of the medicine. You experience this with ayahuasca. It's very hard. Ayahuasca is so powerful because it overrides you if you try to control it. It forces you to listen. Marijuana, mushrooms can do that, but peyote will not do that. Peyote will only guide if you follow, and you have to be very willing to just totally let go. Because if you override it, you'll override it and it won't work.
So they instructed you to sit around a fire for 10 hours, huh? On the ground, like a
Mm-hmm.
pillow or something to sit on, or what?
Yeah, there was like a small pillow, and then they had a meditation like ground chair that gave you back support.
Were you inside a canopy at any time, or was it all outside?
It was inside of a teepee.
TP, my bad,
The
not
fire was
canopy,
in the
TP.
teepee, and then the
Okay.
the smoke was going out the top where the hole was.
Was it just like Rhythmia where you waited hour and music starts, then it's quiet for a little bit, music starts, is it on and off?
You're not really out of yourself ever. It's not like DMT or psychedelics where you see anything. That's what was confusing for me. I was like waiting for myself to start having a visual or going somewhere else or feeling like I was drifting, right? Like that never, ever happened. I was fully present the whole time, very much in connection with my thoughts, but it's very conversational. So you literally just sit there, listen to some music. Someone has a thought, they raise their hand, they share it, and it prompts insights on you. And it's this group sharing that does this healing.
Okay, very cool.
Hmm.
And that's a 1 day event for
Hmm.
roughly about 10 hours.
Hmm.
Do you feel side effects when you go home at night where you're in bed? Do you still feel that medicine in you at that point, or are you kind of dry by the time that you get home and disconnect yourself from that setting?
Well, you never feel high on peyote. So
Okay.
there is like a
There's
struggle
just
to
more
it's
so
just
insights you're saying.
very grounding, really.
You're
Like
grounding. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
imagine like intense marijuana with no zero side effects or dilation to your eyes or itchiness or any of that. It's very calm medicine, but the
Mhm.
grounding effect of it is it's kind of like weed where it chills you down, but without any of the tiredness.
Right.
Just this powerful grounding that like connects you to self and connects you to the earth,
Yeah.
which sounds irrelevant. Like I would have thought like who needs that? But I needed it.
I think everybody needs it, to be perfectly honest. I think being grounded is incredibly important. If you're able to induce self-awareness more upon yourself, it makes your interactions with others so much easier, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And the quickest way that you can get there is being grounded, being one with yourself, being merged, understanding understanding the ebbs and flows of the energy that's coming in and leaving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that. It's a great way to say it.
Yeah. Anything else you have left to add for us today?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I have put up more boundaries, like even with my kids. You know, if they
Okay.
come want my attention, I used to just be like, I'd sit down to meditate or whatever. They'd come in 5 minutes later. It's like, okay, I'll go help you, right? I was getting yanked. That was one of the yankings that
Yeah.
was happening, you know, and that's part of the discernment is just realizing when it's really good for you and right for you, and that you don't need to self-sacrifice, self-sabotage, humble yourselves to the point where you're just responding to others' whims. You get to choose. And the result might be the same, right? If my kid comes in and wants my help, I might choose to help them or I might respond to them. I just realized that I was responding more than choosing. Where if I
Sure.
even give myself a millisecond more thought, it would make the difference between just responding, getting yanked,
Yeah.
and feeling the yank and choosing to go.
It's one of those things where if something's presented in front of you, take a second just to process what it is before replying to it.
Yeah, feel if it's a part of
Exactly
you.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. Well,
What
if you
about you?
don't mind,
Any thoughts that you have? I did a lot of talking today. I appreciate you
no,
listening.
of course. No, and I appreciate you sharing. I think that's good for the people that listen and for me as well. What was your question one more time?
Do you have any thoughts or anything that you'd like to share?
Um, I think mostly what you shared about being grounded is really important, and lessons that I've been learning along the way since I've been back is are still those three pillars that I committed myself to when I was in Costa Rica. It was gratitude, patience, and empathy for people. And I use those tools every single day. I still do. There are days that are tough. Last week I had maybe a run of 1 or 2 days where I felt drained. And what was kind of funny about Saturday, you were in a whole different type of place on Saturday, but for myself, I felt so tired on Saturday and I felt irritated. And I had gone on Twitter a little bit later, and one of my conspiracy theory pages I follow wrote, "Does anybody else feel really tired today? Like the energy is sucked out of their body?" And there was like over 1,000 replies of people saying yes.
Yeah, it was summer solstice too. Wonder if that had anything to do with it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, in Minnesota, it was, 99 degrees and humid. And I was outside for a while and using the sun to charge my body because for
Mhm.
like the last 4 weeks, it's either been a storm or we've had the smoke from the wildfires. So it was the first time in like a month and a half we got to see blue skies, which was really nice. And I did that and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna have a good day today. And for the rest of the day, it's like one of those things where if you're laying down and then you get up, or if you're sitting down and you get up and you kind of like got to take a second to make sure that you're sturdy, you know, it just seemed like there was something going on that was taking the energy away from
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And
Can I?
coincidentally, I mean, I guess that is the same day that the whole bunker bombs happened in the U.S. to Iran. Something about the energy on Saturday was very strange, and
Yeah.
it's taken me up until about mid afternoon today to kind of recover from it. And I know
Yeah.
it may seem sensitive, but I think I'm more sensitive than ever when it comes to energy, and I can
Totally.
totally feel it. I'm aware of it.
Totally. Yes. Yes. My challenge for myself is that when I feel that energy
Yeah.
that's low and low, to just fully embrace it and accept it and be okay moving like a sloth and not having to resort to uh, having to have caffeine. Doesn't mean that you can't enjoy caffeine. But when I go to caffeine or I go to whatever to hit me to get me out of that, right? It creates an energetic blockage, right? And it's important to honor the energy that we feel around us and work with the energy until it comes back to high energy and starts speeding up. Because if we fight it, we create our own blockage and we get misaligned. And then when we get back in line, we have to slowly let it start up again. Or if we just let it be slow, it stays on the track and it naturally gets faster anyway. It's an ex like I also have felt more and more in tune with energy and I've been curious about it to the point where I'm like dissecting how it works in my life. I'm not saying that works for everyone's life, but as I've talked to people about it, the ones that can fully embrace the low times and fully embrace the high times and align with the energy, those are the ones that resist burnout the most or resist on the other end anxiety or hyperactivity where they're always feeling like they need to do something. And that may be something to consider for you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, Tyler. Well, I appreciate you hopping on tonight. I think your story about the peyote is, in my opinion, truly riveting, and I'm looking forward to listening back to it. Anybody that is listening, give me a like and a subscribe. Tyler, again, thank you. Any final thoughts?
No, yeah, I'll
Okay.
just wait till something yanks at me and pulls me where I need to go. But that's hard to trust. Super hard
Yes.
to trust, but I'm practicing it more and more and becoming more comfortable with it.
Well, I look forward to having you on again in a few weeks just to kind of see where you are from today. This has been a really fun journey. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I'll catch you later.